This week on MS Refresh, after a quiet holiday break, we're diving into all the things that are due at the end of this month. Microsoft, and you might be surprised by how much there is. We were. Subscribe to stay in the know. This is the MS Refresh Show. Hi there, and welcome to the Matt and Sean 365 Refresh Show. This is episode 49 for the work week of January 17th. Matt, this can't be right. 2022?
So many twos.
Coming to you live from the West Coast in a brand new year. My name is Sean Bugler.
And from the East Coast, is it New Year, New Me? Is that what it's supposed to be?
I'm
Matt Wade.
New us. Yeah. Happy New Year, Matt.
Yeah, you too, man. Long time no see. Haven't chatted with you in a while. How were your holidays?
It's funny, we were just talking about this before we went live, but we really haven't talked since we went off the air in December of last year. Like, you went off and, ran around the country a little bit, and I stuck my head under a rock and just kind of existed for a couple of weeks, and it was awesome.
Yeah, we texted a little bit, but other than that, it was the holidays kind of took over, and then the girlfriend and I went on a road trip, and then got back, and this is like the first week back from that. So, yeah. It's been a, like, I don't know. You're right. It's like a busy, but not busy. Like,
it's the best kind of busy. Like, it still feels like a vacation. So sure. I enjoyed it. I enjoyed the time off. How was the holiday?
No big complaints. Christmas was good. Families are good.
I'm glad to hear there are no complaints.
I mean, it's the holidays.
Complaints. What complaints?
Stuff's crazy, whatever. And then let's see. On January 1st, on the holiday, on the New Year, Court and I went to started a road trip to bring my parents' car down to their condo in Florida because their old junker, my former car, now their junker that was down there for like the last 7 years, needed to be retired.
Okay, so that was not the one you were driving down.
No. We were driving down my dad's other car that he had up here. So they're basically downsizing to one vehicle in New York, one vehicle in Florida. So Courtney and I drove down. We made a couple stops along the way, a couple unscheduled stops, including that. Did you see in the news that I-95 in Virginia snowstorm?
I saw that, and immediately
we were there.
Yeah, what? Now, so, just as a quick aside before you get into that, for those of you who join us from Europe, that's a really long drive Matt is describing here from New York to Florida.
It's like 22 hours or something in total.
Yeah, that's a cannonball. Like, you go straight through in 22 hours.
Yeah,
that's a pretty big drive. But you got caught in a really big snowstorm in Virginia. And the region is
no. New upstate New Yorker here. It was not a really big snowstorm. It was a mild snowstorm, maybe moderate snowstorm.
Sure.
Dealt with by Virginians. That was the problem.
Mm-hmm.
And I lived in Virginia for a while, so I think I can say that at this point.
And Virginia and the DMV area are notoriously bad at dealing with any level
at driving in it or preparing for it. So there was this awful 40-mile stretch of I-95, which is the main highway that goes from Maine down the East Coast to Miami.
Right. And
it goes through Washington, D.C., Virginia. And there was this 40-mile stretch between D.C. and Richmond, which are normally, I think, 2 hours apart-ish, maybe.
Sure.
And it was this spot along, basically, if you were anywhere near the Quantico, Virginia area, which almost everybody knows what that is because that's where the FBI trains. So if you've ever seen any movie, Hannibal Lecter, that's where Clarice Starling was training, was Quantico. If you were there, everybody wanted to go south. Nobody wanted to go north. And I think we did 38 miles the one day in 10 hours. And then when we got off of the highway, the closest hotel was back one exit north. And we drove that. What was 4 hours in the southern direction took us 14 minutes in the northern direction. Ugh. It was insanity, dude.
I'm glad you guys made it out of there.
We did
saw some people that got trapped there for 27 hours.
We stayed at a hotel and one night, and they didn't have any power. It was a wet, heavy snow. It took down a lot of trees. By the time we left the next morning, people were sleeping in the lobby because they didn't want to turn them away because it was cold out.
Sure.
And we finally found an area where there was power, and we had breakfast at an IHOP. And we had some coffee. This couple, my parents' age, sat down next to us. And I go, oh, that coffee smells good. And I said, oh, well, you can't have any because we've had a day. And the woman goes, well, we just slept in our car on 95 overnight. So we've had one too. And I looked at Courtney and I go, They win. All right,
Take
fair
all
enough.
the coffee. Take all of it.
Exactly. So it was pretty bad. We didn't get to the point where we had to figure out like where are we going to go to the bathroom. That poor couple had to deal with that.
Ugh.
But we made it. We stopped in Charleston. We stopped in Savannah. We stopped in Orlando to do a 10K at Disney. And then we made it to Fort Lauderdale in time to catch our flight back home.
I saw the 10K. Congrats on making it. That's awesome.
Yep. Yeah, I went pretty well.
I did not do any exercise. In fact, I got rid of some clothes just before we jumped onto this that no longer fit. In not the good way.
Can relate.
Yeah. So thanks to everybody who's joining us live. I see some first timers here joining us. Awesome. It's good to see you. And of course, some old names, some old faces as well. Matt, I think we've got to give the people what they want. You ready for the news?
I think I am.
Let's do it.
This is the news.
Well, it's been a few weeks since our last review, though like many of us, Microsoft's best are still getting back into the swing of things. Let's see what hopefully is in store for us this month, according to the Microsoft 365 roadmap. We'll be getting a number of features in Microsoft Teams this month. Here are some of the ones that stood out to us. Some of these will feel familiar. For example, more emoji reaction, something that was announced at Ignite just a few months ago. Likewise, the ability to pin messages in a private chat. Local time will soon be included on people's profiles. Now, music mode. We've talked about music mode a lot. Music mode for meetings is supposed to be coming. I know we talk about it every month, but this month is supposedly the month. Likewise, Microsoft Teams new Slack mode. I'm sorry, greater chat density mode is on the way. Likewise, continuing on, multi-window support for VMware and Azure VDI. Yeah, that's right, folks. Some people out there still have the browser version of meetings in the desktop app. And of course, we've seen a lot of this on Twitter. Walkie-talkie mode on iOS is launching this month. Jumping over to OneDrive and SharePoint, OneDrive sees only a few updates this month, including a revamped Files on Demand experience for everybody's favorite platform, macOS, and sync support for Apple Silicon. Interestingly, they're also rolling out sync support for ARM on Windows. Now, of course, for the non-nerds out there, that's just a different chip platform as compared to like Intel, for example. That's notable because it means that Microsoft is potentially investing in the ARM platform a little bit more so, which isn't a big surprise, but is interesting nonetheless. Similarly, SharePoint is getting a few updates of its own, including private draft mode for SharePoint pages and news, as well as authoring directly in Microsoft Teams. They're also picking up board view for Microsoft Lists and the ability to display images from lists in Power Apps. Improved move and copy experiences are coming to libraries. This is also going to affect OneDrive. The SharePoint app bar is getting an additional button for Microsoft Lists, supplementing files, and the My Feed section, which will include tasks, people, and meetings. And this is a really interesting one. I haven't heard anybody talking about this just yet, but section templates for pages is also on the way this month. Cleaving off a little piece of SharePoint here, SharePoint Syntax is even getting a few things, such as a new Content Center site design that will be available in the SharePoint Lookbook. Everybody loves the Lookbook. Pre-built models for invoices and receipts should help analyze and extract structured information right out of the box. Contract Management Accelerator. This is a new functionality that's going to provide automatic tagging and approval workflows, automatic clause generation, and lifecycle management. I'm sure it's good. I'm sure it's useful. I promise I'm sure it's useful. We look forward to seeing it. And a new Power Automate workflow template will be available to send customized emails when a file is classified by a syntax model. The Office Hub, office.com to the rest of you, and the Office app are getting some New Year's love this month too. The left rail toolbar is getting new content and create options, including the ability to create and edit short video clips. Could this be a preview of the new stream? You'll also be able to view an infinite list of your content when scrolling down, because that's what all of us want, right? Infinite work ahead of us. And specifically within the Office mobile app, users will soon be able to create Microsoft Forms and analyze the results on the go. Yammer! is still here. 2 items on the roadmap in particular caught our eye. First, interestingly, Yammer profile pages are getting a new revamp with a cover photo, followers, and who you're following, and joined communities that you're a part of for everyone's stalking pleasure. Sounds like Facebook. And activity in a Yammer community will now automatically renew the underlying Microsoft 365 group if it's close to expiring. Because in the off chance that a Microsoft 365 group exists, surely the only thing being used is the Yammer group, right? I can imagine that's caused some problems. Microsoft Search, my dark horse favorite for most interesting service to watch this year, has some big deliverables this month. Microsoft Search is coming to the Office mobile app. Customer filters on custom verticals is also on the way. And the much teased people-centric search in SharePoint and on the Office Hub is on the way. Conversation search in Microsoft Search from Bing, SharePoint, and the Office Hub is en route, allowing users to include Teams conversation content in their searches across the Microsoft 365 universe. Bringing up the rear are a few areas that just didn't have enough going on to justify a whole section. We've got some constraints to work with here. Come on now. But they still had some interesting tidbits worth calling out. Planner, for example, is finally getting recurring tasks. Pop the champagne. Visio for the web is picking up support for modern web comments, allowing you to @mention someone, which of course prompts an email notification to them. Whiteboard, our government friends, you'll love this. Whiteboard should be rolling out to GCC High tenants this month. And lastly, Microsoft Word, of all things, is getting a new UI update with a new font picker. It'll let you see your favorite fonts. Of course, we all have our favorite fonts, Comic Sans. Come on. A list of active fonts in your document and display notifications for missing and embedded fonts that may already be a part of the document. Way to go, whoever you are, for pushing this through. Happy New Year to just you.
That was the news.
Happy New Year to just you. That was great. I, for one, cannot wait to favorite. You said Comic Sans. Yep, all over that. Zapfino.
Wingdings.
But you really need what's the avatar font? Papyrus.
Papyrus.
Yes.
Yeah, got a favorite Papyrus.
Yep.
This is like the next level of the culture wars. Is like what's your top 8 fonts?
Yeah. Oh, definitely. I judge people based on their font usage. Absolutely.
This is just going to make things that much more efficient when somebody shares their screen and I can see what their favorites are.
Or divisive. This is going to create. This is going to be the thing that ends humanity.
Did I not say divisive? I meant divisive.
Oh, okay. Well, I'm calling it today. That's what I'm saying.
Did anything catch your eyes in the news?
So I think I know it just sounds so stupid, but the planner recurring task has been like a pet peeve for so long. And, when you're talking about a task tool, something happening over and over on a regular basis just is so basic and foundational that finally we're getting
right.
that. That's going to be
absolutely good. The ground floor of functionality with respect to tax. That's just one of those things that sometimes when you use, and this is not just unique to Microsoft services, but any established product, you use it and you go to try and do something and you think to yourself, I must be stupid. I can't figure out how to do blank. Because
I don't do that anymore. I used to, because now I just jumped right to how did this get past QA? And that's how I feel after every, Apple keynote where Tim Cook comes out and he's like, good morning. And he's like, we're going to finally get fonts in, I don't know, in fill in the blank, Pages has fonts now, or I don't know, whatever. But it's just that stupid stuff where it's like, how did Android have this for 15 years and you guys didn't give it to us until the 2020s?
Right. I'll be interested to see if recurring tasks becomes a marketing brag. We've got recurring tasks now, we're just going to kind of call this no, that's been there.
Take that, Trello.
Yeah, that's going to be interesting. It seems unsurprisingly, a lot of what we saw here in the news was stuff that was kind of pertinent based on announcements from Ignite. Yeah. A lot of team stuff that, not necessarily mission critical functionality, but the emoji reactions, the ability to pin private chat messages. Those are all going to be nice things to have.
I haven't actually seen the UI of that yet, because the one thing that I really despise is how they pin chats in channels. Like they're basically invisible. You have to click that little info button to get the side. But it's like going to Reddit,
Right.
but like
they're treating it like
less
a
user friendly.
bookmark.
Yeah, and like I have at work teams and channels where I would love to have a message at the top that says "Don't forget," right? Like, and that pin, that's what the pin functionality would be for, and that is not the UI that we have. And I'm kind of curious to see. I don't know if they had any previews at Ignite, or because I think that's where they announced it. Or if I know the roadmap doesn't have screenshots, but I have no idea what that's going to look like, and I'm really hoping it has, like, I don't know, more functionality than the channel version of it does.
This might have been a fever dream, but I seem to remember like a little bubble or something that floated up at the top that had, like, so as you scrolled down, there was like a, pinned items above or something like that.
Okay.
It very well might have been, but I agree with you. Yeah, I mean, I think Outlook on the web is a great example of what pinned should be, which is it just stays at the top. You know, no matter as far as I scroll, like it's just there, it's up at the top. So I'm optimistic that continues to be the case.
Yeah,
I'm interested to get your take on this. I saw, Forms functionality is rolling into the Office app, which is interesting because I think that Microsoft 3 years ago would have just made a Forms mobile app. But it seems increasingly clear that this Office app is kind of becoming a catch-all for some of the like Office Lite functionality, which I think I'm on board with. But what do you think?
I think for the form stuff, they're just using it as a browser, but a branded browser that they can get into their stuff. I mean, not that I'm not going to take that. I think that's great. I don't know if a Forms app by itself is sort of justified. Like, what would make me install that? And I use Forms pretty frequently at work. But I do like the Office app, and I've grown to like it more. I was very skeptical of it at first because on Windows, at least, it's just a PWA that's just a wrapper of the Office Hub, right? It's just a web page in its own little app. But on mobile, it has a lot of functionality built in. Now, they've basically taken Office Lens and OneDrive and kind of sort of the Office apps, Word, Excel, PowerPoint, OneNote, and like smushed them together with that homepage there. And I do like it, especially for content creation, because from that app, you can, scan a table that's printed out, and it can be magically turned into an Excel spreadsheet that's maybe not formatted correctly, but split up in cells correctly, right? Being able to scan for PDF and being able to, get the edges correct and whatnot is just really good. I think eventually Lens is probably going to have to be decommissioned, because at this point, I think the Venn diagram of Lens and Office is like Lens is pretty much all the way inside the Office circle.
I keep wondering like what the logic is, if it's just, we've already captured the audience. If we've already captured the audience that, has the mobile app downloaded and they don't know any better, so we're not going to try and redirect them to the Office mobile app, or
maybe, I don't know. The other thing it does really well is Office is now the default for when you open up a comment. So if you like tap an email that says somebody mentioned you in a comment or replied to your comment in a Word file or whatever, it will open it in the Office app, and it doesn't do that in the app. So Word won't show that, or at least it won't show it as well. Right. And if you want to edit, like you're in a view mode, but with like almost like a review mode, I guess, like, you can see the comments, you can respond to them, whatever. If you want to edit the file, then it opens up the Word app, right? And I don't know, I kind of like the fact that this stuff is centralized in that app. It's getting better and better, and I do like it on iOS. I don't really use it on Windows at all. I jump to whatever I need to get to directly if I'm doing it on Windows.
Yeah, I would agree with you on that one. Speaking of mobile apps that could use a little bit of love, the Power Automate app has not been updated in any reasonable way in years. So
I opened that up today for the first time in like a couple of years. I could not believe. I mean, granted, the app itself is now branded Power Automate, but when you open the app itself, like the icon,
it's
everything.
The old,
they even have an animation that, like, very cool. Like the fact that they even like put the effort into an animation, a loading, animation. It is the old icon. It is, it's clearly Flow branded everywhere. I was very unpleasantly surprised by that today.
Yeah, and it's one of those things where you either have the app or don't, because the last major update, and major is a very generous description of it, but the last major update of it was to change the branding. But what's interesting is that it's a fairly robust app. It supports editing and creating flows. It's got location functionalities, so you can use geofence triggers. Of course, you've got the great, Power Automate flow button trigger, so you can just like push a button and it triggers apps. Really cool stuff. It even supports GCC, which is like, of all the things Microsoft still doesn't support in GCC, a testament to the fact that they supported in a mobile app 4 years ago.
Yeah. I was looking at it today because I wanted to see what the approvals hub, looks like on mobile. Because I think that's one of the major selling points and something that I think from a user perspective, I can, any sort of request process, we can automate that, put in an approval, if so-and-so doesn't answer in 5 days, send it to somebody else, like that kind of thing. And that approval hub can be that central place to go to see, okay, what are people waiting on from me? Instead of having to filter through my email inbox, which I may not do a good job of organizing, or my Teams chats, which are a mess. Private chats are always a mess. And if you're actually using Teams the right way and have channels organizing that kind of stuff, like you have to save the messages, and like tasks are kind of hard to do in a messaging tool, but that app does a great job of listing what you have open, what people are waiting on you for, what your history is. What was funny was I was trying to find a screenshot to include in presentation, and I found one, a very, very old one on Microsoft Docs. I mean, like it's really old, but it works. I couldn't find a single screenshot of the web version of it because it's the same thing, right? Just presented in two different ways. And I wanted to show this is what the desktop, what it looks like in Edge, and this is what it looks like in the iOS app. And I couldn't find any examples, any blogs. I'm sure there's like, if I went through YouTube videos, somebody did it once and I could screenshot the YouTube video, but like there were no like actual screenshots showing that feature. And I feel like that feature is one of the bigger things that everyday people would be like, oh, finally we can like organize all the requests coming through so that, it's in a centralized place and not a bunch of emails in my so-and-so's inbox and they forget about them.
Yeah, 100%. It is interesting because you approvals is obviously such an important and integral part of the Power Automate experience, but you almost don't think about it being a Power Automate thing. So I would imagine most people just don't even go like, oh yeah, like of course you go to flow.microsoft.com and I go to the approval center tucked up above the, view my flows.
Yeah.
It's interesting. I'm optimistic we'll see some investment in that. I genuinely am, because I think the mobile app makes sense. I think you're right that approvals is a really great experience alone, just being able to download that and just click, boom. We'll see. This is kind of funny. I'm going to hightail us a little bit and pull up a question here that you and I were talking about just before we went live here, which was our one of our regular friends here, Ross. Can't wait for isolated audio feeds and NDI output for integrating with live video production software such as vMix. Between this and webinar features, does this mark the end of Teams Live? Now, of course, the only people who know if Teams Live is going away is the Teams team. But what do you think?
So I don't think live events are going to be going anywhere anytime soon because of the amount of investment they've made in making it a very team-specific thing. So it used to be a stream thing, and it still is under the hood, but it's being presented through Teams. And
wasn't there a Yammer Live too?
So live events could be presented in Stream, Yammer, or Teams. And I think the Yammer version of it is being decommissioned. I could be wrong on that one.
No, I think you're right.
But the difference between a webinar and a meeting, which like dirty secret, a Teams webinar is literally just a Teams meeting with a sign-up page. Right. Only difference, no difference otherwise, is that a live event is a broadcast. And yeah, it sounds great if you can push video feeds or audio feeds directly to a meeting. But if you're presenting something, live events are a lot lower bandwidth because you're pushing it out, right, to an audience that could be 10,000, 20,000, and they're just watching a video feed like they would on like Facebook Live or YouTube Live. And yeah, the people producing and presenting in that live event are in a meeting, but it's really just a video feed being pushed out. So you can plug anything you want to into that if you have the technical expertise. I do not. I do know enough to know that like OBS Studio is a thing. If you're ever interested in learning more about like, putting in a microphone feed or a separate, camera feed into a live event, just look up John Moore. He's a Teams NDI expert. does a lot of YouTube videos and that kind of stuff. But I don't think they're going to go anywhere anytime soon because the use cases are I think they're very black and white difference.
I agree.
You know, the meetings and the webinars are interactive. And yes, you can turn people's mics off and, you know, whatever. But in a live event, you have no idea who's watching, and that's fine. Like nobody else can see who else is watching.
It's a lot more ominous when you say it like that.
Well, but in a meeting and a webinar, I can
no
see,
idea who's watching.
Right. On a meeting and a webinar, though, I can see, even if I'm an external person, I can see everybody's name, everybody's phone number, if the phone numbers are not blocked. But yeah, like that's a big difference, I think. And like the presentation of like you have to know enough to like use pinning and spotlighting to ensure people are seeing what they should see, and like you have less control. It's a lot more dynamic, and it's not as polished, I guess is what I would say. So I don't think they're going anywhere anytime soon. But you know, I just published a book that I said in a very blatant statement that we only have 6 reactions in Teams messages, and that's unlikely to change anytime soon. And then it's, you know, Microsoft said, "Hey, we got 388 more coming at you, so enjoy that, Matt."
I think what makes it funnier to me is how many other things that, because of course, like you have your friends that you ask on the team side of things to like review and make sure, hey, is this accurate? Is this going to continue to be accurate? Like, am I presenting it appropriately? And they waved you off of a good few things. Did not wave you off of this.
So that you mean the emoji or the live events?
The emojis.
So I didn't even ask because, like, obviously it's been 6. It's the same 6 as Facebook, and it's been that way since 2016. Of course, they're not going to change that. Like,
sure,
no, whatever. Anyway. I don't think they're going anywhere.
I would agree with you. I think that the Teams Live branding alone is still too great. I think that, you know, just the sense of broadcast there's some staying power there. Yeah. What I do think that we'll probably see in the long term, especially as Microsoft kind of figures out, you know, if there's like the one true codec that they can lean on for that kind of content, is Teams Live continue to exist, but actually just kind of be a pre-configuration of a regular Teams meeting. That might be something that we see in the future.
I'm sure there'll be a progression, and
sure, no, of course, but definitely not. Certainly not this year, and I would go as far as to say definitely not next year either.
Yeah, well, I know that they pushed really hard, especially right after COVID hit, on making live events more sustainable and also increasing the size of them. So they went from like 5 to 10,000 very quickly, and then 10,000 to 20,000, and then there was like a special page on the Stream website that said like, we can host up to 100,000. Just reach out to your account manager and we'll get that for you, but we have to enable it because we don't want everybody having 100,000 person broadcast. But like they saw the need for that scenario, and like they responded to it.
Sure. No, credit to them. We've talked about this a million times, but how quickly they moved to adapt the functionality of it. Really, really quick here on this one. Ross continued with for Teams videos out via hardware and RTMP streaming. Will there be any control of the layout? And Matt, we've heard kind of different iterations on this question with respect to just how Microsoft presents video out. You know, so for example, you record a meeting in Teams and it's, you know, dynamic view. It's not respecting spotlighting,
right? Things
like that. Correct me if I'm wrong, we haven't heard anything to the extent that they're working on kind of segmenting video out in any meaningful way, not in regular Teams meetings.
I haven't heard anything like super specific about that. I'm just kind of looking at the roadmap and see if there's anything here that. No, everything recording is about downloads, finding a meeting recording, starting a record. Yeah, no, I don't see anything in the roadmap.
And
I don't remember that.
They know that this is something that people complain about. Like I've spotlighted somebody, I've pinned them, and the recording doesn't respect that challenge.
Yeah, I have a feeling that some of those limitations are related to the fact that there are versions of Teams meetings, namely in the browser, that still don't support things like spotlighting. And I have a feeling it's because of that there's, you kind of have to record the lowest common denominator of what can be available. Now they're working on upgrading the browser version of Teams meetings to support dynamic view and, background replacement and spotlighting.
So
but that's
far,
a thing.
I just picked it up.
Yeah. Yeah, right. Exactly. Yeah. But like, I know that when I'm on like MVP calls with Microsoft, it's kind of hilarious because I'll always say in the chat, almost in a passive aggressive way, like, please spotlight the people that are presenting. And then you get like 2 or 3 people who will like chirp in and go, I'm on the browser. Right? You can't do that. And it's like, so join in the desktop app. Like, this is the team's MVP call. Like, what the heck?
Right.
Like, I have no sympathy for you at all. Like, so that limitation, I think, probably is where some of this stuff comes from.
This is a great opportunity for both of us to share that anybody can become an MVP. And I mean this in the best possible way. Anybody can become an MVP.
Okay, that took me a second. Yes. Okay, yes. I agree. I've got. Okay, I found another really good question here.
Oh,
all of us can appreciate this one. How do you know when your exact tenant is getting a feature? Is it just a surprise gift one day? Short answer, yes.
Mm-hmm.
And what do you do when management and users say, I need a date? When is it actually going to happen? Because in the old days, you would do it on a Wednesday night when, that was downtime or system downtime. And welcome to the world of we'll see it or we won't. Like, it's rolling out. It might take a few weeks, and it might take a few weeks to get through all the tenants, and certain users in your tenant might get something before other users, and there's no rhyme or reason to it.
It's funny because, and Carolyn, this is such a good question. This is the exact reason that I'm as active in the community as I am, because when I took the job that I have now 4 years ago, I kind of took over responsibility for keeping an eye on the Microsoft 365 universe and pushing it forward. And we were the GCC tenant at the time. And so, I mean, that's a whole can of worms unto itself. But
yeah.
I quickly found out exactly what, Carolyn, you're running into, which is that there is no exact, and it's the worst possible answer here. And what I'm about to say is in no way, shape, or form better, but it is something to kind of keep in mind, which is that there are really great places to keep an eye on the minutia of those progressions and kind of the ebbs and flows of what was supposed to launch but got delayed because they're fixing something. Twitter is a really great place to develop your network of people that talk about this stuff. I can't tell you how many times I've seen something that was supposed to launch in a week, the span of a week or the span of a month, according to the admin center or according to the roadmap, and just didn't. And no updates went out. But I happened to see like the project manager the program manager for that particular feature on Twitter replying to somebody who asked like, hey, where is this? And got context. It sucks that that's in a lot of different ways the only way to get that information. We, of course, try to share that as best we can when we find that out. But yeah, it's curating your own little garden of information sources. Obviously continue to watch the show, but that's a really great way to kind of take control of it in this very helpless environment of Q4. They really don't even do quarters anymore. Now they just do months. They used to just tell you sometime between August and question mark.
Are you coming back with back in my day, they didn't even tell us within a month. They told us within a month plus or minus a month. So
I wish that was better.
After I got over my rage and denial, when I finally realized what this is, and I got into the cloud world, and it's like, oh man, this is unpredictable. Even if it says it's going to come out that month, things might get pushed, and it's really hard to follow the roadmap in any sort of way to see like one item and like the history of when it was due, because a lot of them get pushed out. So that you might be expecting something by January 31st, and it's the 17th right now, and you don't look at the roadmap for a couple of weeks. Then you look back at it and you're like, I could have sworn that said January, and now it says February 28th, right? But once I got past my grief on all of that, I settled, and I decided that this is just job security, and I might as well ride that wave and be, the guy that explains nothing's perfect. When was the last time you rolled out a project on time?
Don't put this on me. I'm not a multi-trillion-dollar company.
You specifically.
I mean, like
metaphorically. Internally. Yeah. Somebody else like, oh, when's this coming out? How is it not here yet? It's like, well, let me look up in our repository of letters that we put out. And like, the last letter that you issued says that it was originally due a month prior to when you actually issued it. So what's your excuse, pal? So like, we're all human, you know. So it's job security. That's my takeaway.
Yeah, absolutely. Carolyn, just know you're not alone.
Oh yeah, we're all in this together.
Yep.
So yeah, I think that's probably good for today. I do have to do one quick brag before we finish. On the 31st, right before I took the roller coaster of a road trip down the U.S. East Coast, my second book came out. And it actually showed up.
Look at that.
And so now I've got 2. Now this one says with on the bottom because Peter decides to brand himself as that's Mr. Office to you. But yeah, I wrote the Microsoft Teams, the collaboration, SharePoint, OneDrive. This is one of those mini books, or all-in-one books. So there's like a dozen.
It's a mega book.
Books.
It's not a mini
it's like
book.
800
it's a
pages.
mega
It's a
book.
lot.
Yeah. You kill somebody with that thing.
Inside there are 11 or 12 mini books, and I wrote a few of those. So now I've got 2. The other day I was very happy. I was in Barnes & Noble, and I actually saw both of them in the wild, which was really,
and of course,
cool.
I texted you after you posted that picture. You didn't sign either of them?
Never thought of it. You know what I'm going to do? I'm going to go on Amazon. There's got to be like pre-done stickers that say autographed copy. And I'm going to just walk around to all the bookstores and just really get a super eco trip, sign them all, put a sticker on the front, and then, I don't know, put like a bandit hat on and like book.
Done. Yeah, I think that's great. Yeah, I mean, that's who among us wouldn't want a signed copy? Did you? I imagine you got to give out some signed copies of your book at the conference in Vegas.
Yes, I did indeed. It was fun. Although it's actually a little bit harder to travel with multiple books to give out, I realized, because it's like I just barely meet the threshold of being able to take a carry-on to begin with, and like, oh, here's 3 books I got to shove in there too. And now this one, ain't no way this is coming with me.
No,
the size of this thing.
No, just have the publisher ship a couple to your hotel room for the next conference.
You haven't worked with the publishing industry yet, have you?
No, almost did, and then that just did not. I don't have the free time for that.
Yeah, I hear that.
Once I'm done with school.
Yeah, that's true. That's a good idea. And then you can sell those books to students for like $900 and just really.
Don't get me started.
I went to college too, thank you very much.
I have so many thoughts on this.
Yes, I think we all do. All right, well, I think that's probably a good time to finish for this week. Thanks, everybody, for joining us, as usual. If you have a moment, a like and subscribe is much appreciated. Drop your comments below. Keep the conversation going. We will see you next week. I forget which I rearranged the topics. I think it's what's new this month is what we'll be talking about. And
I think that sounds right.
Yeah, that was I don't know if that's accurate.
No, this is not the one we talked about. Yeah,
good effort though. A plus, but
we're moving
all right.
on.
Right. And with that, Sean, thanks so much for joining me, and great chatting with you and catching up, and can't wait to see you and everybody else again next week.